I had always found solace in the woods, the smell of pine, the peaceful sound of leaves rustling in the wind. It was late September, and the days were still warm, perfect for a solo hike in the Cascades. I planned a day trek to a secluded area known for its breathtaking views, a spot few had ever ventured to. As I parked my old truck at the trailhead, I took a deep breath, enjoying the crisp mountain air that felt like freedom itself. The first few hours were uneventful. The trail wound through dense thickets of trees, vibrant with autumn colors. I lost track of time, captivated by the landscape and the occasional deer that would dart across the path. But as I climbed higher, a strange feeling crept over me, like the woods were watching. Maybe it was the silence. There were no birds singing, no rustling of small creatures, just an oppressive stillness that seemed to envelop me. As I reached a fork in the trail, I paused. One path led deeper into the towering trees, while the other branched off to a distant ridge. Against my better judgment, I chose the latter, drawn by the promise of a breathtaking view. Yet, something felt off. The air was heavier, and the trees seemed to loom closer together, blocking out the sky. I noticed the fallen leaves crackling underfoot sounded louder too, a reminder that I was not alone. After what felt like an eternity of hiking, I finally reached the ridge. The view was stunning, valleys painted in warm colors, a river winding like a silver ribbon below. I took a moment to bask in the beauty, snapping photos and trying to shake off the unease that had settled over me. But as I turned to head back, I noticed the clouds had thickened, casting a shadow over the landscape. It was time to go, but the path back suddenly felt daunting and unfamiliar. As I followed the trail, I noticed something peculiar. It was as if the path had changed. The familiar markers I had seen on the way up were gone. I strained to remember where I had turned, but the trees seemed to shift, blocking my memories. Panic started to set in as I rounded a bend and stumbled upon an old campsite not marked on any map. The fire pit was cold and empty, but the remnants of faded tents and scattered debris stirred an unsettling feeling in my gut. I quickly backed away, my heart pounding in my chest. It was time to leave. The thought of spending the night there sent shivers down my spine. I hurried back to the fork, or at least where I thought it was. Recalling the way I came, I turned left, but after several minutes, I realized I was walking in circles. With every step, I felt the presence of someone or something following from just beyond my line of sight. I could hear faint rustling in the underbrush, and occasionally a twig would snap. I hated the feeling of being watched. I picked up my pace, shoving branches aside and trying not to trip over roots. The familiar thrum of panic began to take over, and I shouted into the void, "Is anyone there?" The only answer was silence, thick and heavy. But there was something in the silence, an uncomfortable weight that hinted I was not alone. Just ahead, I spotted a pathway that seemed vaguely familiar, and I ran towards it, desperate for escape. The atmosphere changed as daylight started to fade, casting long shadows that danced like specters. As I reached what I thought was the trail back, I stumbled upon a clearing. It was eerily serene, with a stillness that made my skin crawl. In the center, there was a lone tree with a gnarled trunk, the bark twisted in unnatural shapes. I felt compelled to approach it, but logic fought against the urge. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that it was somehow important. Suddenly, I heard it. Soft whispers carried on the wind, swirling all around me. My heart raced, and I spun around, searching for the source. The whispers seemed to call my name, a haunting melody that left me breathless. I dashed back towards the path, but the familiar markers were gone, replaced by trees that stretched higher than I remembered. It felt like the woods had conspired against me, shifting and morphing with every step I took. As panic gripped me, I heard a sudden crash behind me, a sound like heavy footsteps crashing through the brushes. I turned to see a dark shape moving between the trees, impossibly quick. I bolted, adrenaline surging through me as I forced myself deeper into the darkening woods. The sounds of pursuit grew louder, echoing my fear. I didn't stop until I saw the faint outline of my truck in the distance, relief washing over me like cold water. I fumbled for my keys, my hands trembling as I unlocked the door and slammed it shut behind me. Heart racing, I glanced into the rearview mirror, expecting to see nothing, but there in the shadows of the trees stood a figure, tall, with limbs that seemed too long and a face hidden beneath a dark hood. It simply stood watching. I couldn't breathe as I turned the key in the ignition, praying the truck would start. The engine roared to life, and I sped away without looking back. Months later, I still return to those woods, but I never hike alone. Each time I feel the weight of unseen eyes following me, as if the trees were whispering secrets I'm not meant to know. I wonder what would have happened had I lingered just a moment longer at that eerie tree, or if I hadn't heard those whispers beckoning me. I've never seen that figure again, but I have no doubt it waits for someone else to wander into its realm. Growing up in Pine Hollow, I always felt a connection to the woods that surrounded our small town. They were a part of me, a part of every kid who grew up climbing the trees and exploring the unseen trails behind our houses. As a child, my friends and I created wild stories about the spirits that roam the woods, tales of lost souls seeking solace beneath the pines. But nothing could prepare me for the real story that unfolded when I returned home as an adult in the summer of 2022. After years of living in the city, I was excited to spend the summer back home. I decided to take a solo hike to revisit some of my old haunts. The day was perfect, with the sun casting a warm glow and a gentle breeze rustling the leaves. I packed my backpack with water and snacks, setting off in the early afternoon. Each step felt like a reunion, memories flooding back with every familiar sound and scent. Hours passed, and I wandered further than I intended, lost in nostalgia. The further I ventured, the more I felt the weight of the woods surrounding me. The laughter of children echoed faintly, and I found myself glancing over my shoulder, half expecting to see my old friends sprinting through the trees. I laughed, shaking my head. It was just the wind playing tricks on my mind, or so I told myself. Eventually, I stumbled upon a clearing I didn't recognize, an area of the woods that felt different. The ground was soft with moss, and a stillness blanketed everything. There were no animals, no insects buzzing, just an eerie silence that sent a shiver down my spine. In the center stood a massive pine tree, unlike any I'd seen before, its gnarled roots twisting above the ground, like fingers reaching for something buried below. Drawn to the tree, I approached cautiously, my curiosity battling with an instinctual fear. As I reached out to touch the bark, a sudden rustling broke the silence. I turned, heart pounding, but only saw shadows flitting between the trees. "Is someone there?" I called out, my voice trembling. No response. The stillness returned, even heavier than before. I took a step back, my instinct screaming at me to leave, yet I hesitated. Just then, I heard it, a faint whisper, almost melodic. It echoed through the clearing, a sound both alluring and terrifying. "Come closer," it beckoned, sending a chill through me. I shook my head, backing away. It was a trick of the mind, surely, I thought. I turned to leave, but the forest seemed to close in around me. The path I had come from was gone, swallowed by the shadows. Panic surged as I spun around, searching for any sign of familiarity. I began to run, weaving through trees, but every direction looked the same. The whispers grew louder, surrounding me. "Stay with us," they cooed, sweet yet sinister. I could feel the air change, thickening with dread as the sun began to set, casting long shadows that danced menacingly around me. Just when I thought I would scream, I came across the massive pine tree again, as if it had lured me back. I wanted to cry, my heart raced as I felt the roots beneath my feet pulse with an unnatural energy. The whispers became pleading, "Don't leave us," as if the forest itself was alive, ensnaring me in its embrace. I could see faint shapes moving in the darkness, people, or what once were people, trapped in the shadows. Realizing the danger, I forced myself to look away, breaking free from their hypnotic pull. I sprinted back, throwing myself through the underbrush, desperate to escape the suffocating grip of the woods. The whispers turned into desperate cries, "Stay." But I didn't stop. I couldn't. The sun was setting quickly, and I stumbled as I finally broke free of the trees, the familiar trail ahead illuminated by the last breaths of daylight. I reached my truck just as dusk settled around me. The feeling of safety washed over me, but the whispers lingered in my ears, a haunting reminder of what I had left behind. I fumbled for my keys, glancing back at the woods that had held me captive. Shadows morphed, and for a fleeting moment, I swore I saw faces in the dark, twisted in anguish. I got in the truck and sped away, the echoes of Pine Hollow etched in my mind forever. To this day, I don't return to those woods. I sometimes hear whispers in my dreams, beckoning me back to the tree where shadows dance, reminding me of how close I came to becoming one of them. Pine Hollow has always been a part of me, but now it feels like a warning, a reminder to never forget the secrets hidden beneath the surface, the echoes of those who never found their way back. It was late October 2023 when my friends and I decided to take a camping trip to the forgotten woods of Blackwater Ridge. Nestled deep in the Appalachian region, it was known for its vast expanse of trees and ancient folklore surrounding its history. We were excited, looking forward to a weekend of hiking and storytelling around the campfire. The drive was long and filled with laughter, but as we approached the entrance, an unsettling fog seemed to descend over the area. We parked at the trailhead and loaded our gear onto our backs, joking about the ghost stories we had heard. The trees loomed over us, their twisted branches forming a canopy that blocked out much of the daylight. Despite the beauty, there was an unmistakable air of foreboding that settled in, making me glance over my shoulder more than once as we trekked down the path. There was a solemnness to the woods that was hard to shake off, even amidst the playful banter. After an hour of hiking, we reached a clearing where we decided to set up camp. The air was crisp, and the sound of leaves rustling underneath our campsite created a symphony of nature. As night fell, we gathered around the fire, sharing spooky tales while the flames danced before us. I shared a story about the legend of the Wraith of Blackwater said to roam these woods at night seeking lost souls to take with it. As my story came to a close, the atmosphere shifted, the laughter faded, and an unsettling silence crept in. The fire crackled loudly, the only sound breaking the eerie quiet of the woods. I could feel eyes in the darkness, just beyond the fire's glow, and an overwhelming dread crept over me. Amongst the shadows, I swore I saw figures, just out of the light, but every time I turned there was nothing but trees swaying gently in the night breeze. My friends felt the change in atmosphere too. Even the bravest among us fell silent, eyes darting toward the shadows. One of them, Sarah, suggested we go for a night hike to break the tension, arguing it could be fun. Reluctantly, we agreed. With flashlights in hand, we ventured into the forest, the beams illuminating only small patches of the path as the darkness swallowed everything else. As we walked, the air grew colder, and a chilling wind swept through the trees, making them creak like old bones. We followed a narrow path deeper into the woods where the trees stood taller and more tightly packed. Whispers began to fill the air, quiet at first, but growing louder, as if the forest itself was alive, sharing secrets we weren't meant to hear. The atmosphere became thick with tension as we exchanged nervous glances, urging each other to keep moving. Suddenly, a rustling sound broke through our silence, making all of us freeze in our tracks. We turned, shining our flashlights into the void, but found nothing. "It's just the wind," someone said, trying to ease the growing fear. Yet, as we pressed on, the whispers intensified, morphing into a cacophony of unsettling voices. Each step felt like we were being drawn deeper into a nightmare, the whispers now distinctly calling out our names. Panic set in, and we attempted to turn back, but the trees felt impossibly tighter, as though they were pushing us further into the darkness. Our flashlights flickered ominously, one by one, as if the very essence of the forest was trying to extinguish our light. Fear overwhelmed us, and as we stumbled backwards, I caught sight of a figure standing between the trees, a tall, thin silhouette with an unearthly aura and hollow eyes that seemed to bore into my soul. I screamed, unintentionally triggering a chain reaction of terror. We bolted through the trees, our hearts racing as branches clawed at us, a frantic dash made worse by the fear of what might be pursuing us. We made it back to the campsite, panting and terrified. The fire had died down, leaving only glowing embers behind. We huddled together, desperately trying to rationalize what we had seen, but the presence of that figure lingered in our minds like a haunting melody. As dawn approached, the whispers faded, replaced by the peaceful chatter of birds waking from their slumber. But the woods felt different now, as if they had changed overnight. We packed up our campsite, our hearts still heavy with the fear of what we had encountered, and as we walked back to the trailhead, we couldn't shake the feeling that something had followed us, keeping its distance, watching us leave with hollow eyes. Months later, none of us speak about that night. It's as if the memory were a secret too heavy to bear. We occasionally joke about it, but the laughter never reaches our eyes. The shadows of Blackwater Ridge linger in our minds, a reminder of the night we ventured into the forgotten woods and came out changed. Sometimes when the wind howls just right, I swear I can hear those whispers